Uh, First of all, welcome to everyone. I invite my committee, my advisor Subrahma Kamapati, my other committee members Huan Liu and Dr. Vasandavanchu. Today, my thesis is about ranking tweets by exploiting the tweet user and web ecosystem and the inter-tweet equipment. So, first of all, a few words about the Twitter. Twitter is one of the most prominent microblogging services. It has around 340 million tweets. It generates 340 million tweets every day and 1.6 billion of queries every day. So search is a very essential part of Twitter. And user accesses tweets using search and by following users. So my research is mainly concentrated on improving the search of Twitter to get users more relevant results for a query. So first of all, let me ask the question of why do we need relevance and trust when we do search in Twitter. One of the main issues with Twitter is that Twitter is used as a platform for spreading false facts. There have been many instances where many of the celebrities were claimed as dead in Twitter, which were hoax newses. And also, we cannot use retweets and follower count to find out trustworthy users in Twitter. One of the main reasons is that you can buy users and buy retweets from fake users and to get a better trustworthy score if we depend only on retweets and trustworthy users. So what is the Twitter search currently? So Twitter search currently does not actually use any relevance metrics. It basically just sorts the tweets that contain the query keyword by the reverse chronological order. So for example, we can see all these tweets are sorted by the reverse chronological order such that the one on the top is the latest tweet and one on the bottom is the oldest tweet. But we can see that for this query itself, most of the tweets are not relevant to the query. Although they contain the query keywords, they do not seem what the user wants. So how can we improve it? In order to look at that, first of all, I look at how is search on the surface web. On the surface web, the users search for documents which are big enough to contain all or most of the query keywords. There is no limit on the document size, which makes the search engines easier to find documents so that they contain almost all the query keywords. And search engines usually use TF-IDF similarity to find the most similar document to that query. And in this TF-IDF similarity, the IDF is expected to suppress the stop words so that we do not do any prose processing to actually remove the stop words. So what happens if we actually use TF-IDF similarity in Twitter? For the same query that I explained before, this is how TF-IDF similarity would work for Twitter. The first tweet does not have anything to do with the query, but it contains a lot of TFs of white, which increases the TF-IDF similarity. And we can see that almost everything of these tweets are irrelevant to the query except for this one. So why do these tweets become irrelevant and this one is actually relevant? It is definitely not the TF-IDF similarity, because by TF-IDF similarity, the one that has highest TF is the most relevant tweet. But this one has lesser TF-IDF similarity, but still is more relevant to the query. So one of the reasons we can see is that the user is more credible user than other users mentioned here. So in that case, user popularity and trust becomes a much more bigger issue than a TF-IDF similarity. How do we measure relevance using user popularity and trust? What are the constraints, what are the criteria that we should look at to measure the popularity? That's what we look at first. So one of this is, of course, tweet similarity to the query. Without that, there is no point of measuring the user similarity. Then there can be the tweet's popularity, the user's popularity and trustworthiness, and if the tweet contains a web URL, the URL's popularity or trustworthiness. So in order to find all these metrics, I model the Twitter ecosystem for that. So there are tweets for a query queue, and some of them have retweets. Then there are users who are connected by the tweeted by URL, tweeted by link. The users have links between them, which is the follower-followee relationship. And some of the tweets will have web URLs, which is mentioned in the tweet. The web also has URLs, hyperlinks between them. I look at how do we exploit all these to find a credible or trustworthy tweet and a popular tweet. So first let's look at the query part of it. So we have seen that TF-IDF similarity cannot be used as a sole metric, but it can be used along with other features. So in this, I actually use TF-IDF similarity, which is exponentially decayed by the query distance of the query terms in the tweet. So basically, in Twitter, mostly we don't expect the query term to be present more than once. So TF is almost binary. We have to basically then rely on IDF. So I want to support IDF using an additional measure of exponential decay, which is why I introduced the addition of exponential decay over TF-IDF similarity. Going to the tweet, the reputation of or popularity of a tweet can be measured by the number of retweets it has, number of favorites it has, number of hashtags, and the presence of emoticons or exclamation marks in the tweet. Basically, retweets and favorites shows the user interaction on the tweet, which makes it popular, and the presence of emoticons and exclamations make it less trustworthy. When we go to the users, we look at some of the features that help us identify if a user is good or bad. For this, I basically use features of the user, such as if the profile is verified, which makes the Twitter itself verify the profile, which makes it more trustworthy than a not verified profile. A creation date, such that an old creation date may mean that it's more trustworthy than a very recent creation date. The number of statuses shows us the user popularity in the Twitter, or number of tweets that the user have tweeted. And the following counts will give you how much interactions the user have in the Twitter. As the follower count increases, we can see that more people trust Twitter, this user, and as the friends increases, we can maybe see that this user is a more uses Twitter more frequently. Going to the web interface, we need to find if the tweet mentions a URL that is more trustworthy. If the tweet actually mentions a URL that is more trustworthy, then maybe the tweet is also more trustworthy. So in the web, I do not try to invent my own trustworthiness score, because there is already a popular trustworthiness score called PageRank. I just try to use that. These features, I train a random forest learner to compute a feature score, which actually combines all these features into a score. So a few words about the random forest learner. It's an ensemble learning method, and it basically creates multiple decision trees for each bagging approach. This actually helps me reduce the overfitting of it, and also because it's a classifier, it helps me say that the features might not be linearly proportional to the trustworthiness score. And I actually impute the features so that I do not penalize the tweets which does not have a URL. so that I can actually penalize a tweet which has a less credible URL in it. And also some of the users I am not able to crawl because those profiles were deleted before my crawling. So by using imputation, I actually give them average score.
So do you assume that the users are homogeneous? Because some could be users like you and me, some could be like a media, newspaper, some TV. How does it work?
So I expect the features to represent how it is different, how it differentiates you and me from a media users. Because
you expect, you find.
So the followers is actually a big. The follower by followee count helps the learner actually differentiate between you and me and news media, because news media will have high number of followers but very less number of friends, and you and me will have almost the ratio will be almost 1.
So that imbalance you take into account.
Yes, the learner actually takes into account. In order to train the learner, I actually use a very prominent IR competition gold standard, which is the Trek microblog gold standard. How the Trek microblog gold standard works is that for a specific query, a set of tweets are given to a Mechanical Turk paid people, and they are actually set to say if these tweets are actually relevant to the query or not. So they do this by saying if it's 1 or 0. And I actually use 5% of this gold standard to train my learner. So we started this by saying that we want to improve on the Twitter search. So let's go back and see if it actually improves Twitter search. So we can see that it actually improves on Twitter search on almost all values of k. So I'll actually go into the detailed experiments later. This is just to show that feature score helps in improving from the Twitter search. So let's go back and see for this same query, how does feature score, ranking by feature score help it. So we can see that it definitely improved from TF-IDF and Twitter similarity. The tweet seems more relevant, but still they are not relevant to the query. This is mostly because feature score actually can predict the user and web page credibility, but they cannot actually show the actual relevance to the query. For example, if we can see that the first tweet contains most of the query keywords, but still it doesn't talk about what the query is about. And it's also from a news blog, which makes it very reputed. So we need a metric that actually can capture all the user web and tweet features, as well as be relevant to the query. So in order to do that, let's try exploiting one of the main features of Twitter. So in Twitter, mostly it is the case that a query will be about a current breaking event. In that case, there will be a lot of tweets that actually mention that current breaking event. So how do we exploit this wisdom of the crowds? How do we make our ranking susceptible to this trend, change in trend? So one idea to use that is by using tweets as a vote. So tweet basically votes on a topic which they say in their tweet, in their content. And I believe that the tweet that has the topic that has the highest vote may be more likely to be relevant to the query than a topic that has lesser number of votes. So in order to do that, how do we compute the endorsement for a topic in Twitter? So there is already retweets which does an explicit endorsement in Twitter, but this seems to be very sparse for my method. So I had to implement my own different metric, which is actually agreement. agreement is basically implicit links which creates a link between tweets which say almost the same thing. In Twitter, we can say that agreement can be considered as implicit endorsement. So one way to compute agreement is by using TF-IDF similarity. If they contain the same same terms, then they are more likely to be talking about the same thing. But I have to resort to part of speech weighted TF-IDF similarity. This is mostly because I compute the IDF on the result set. I have to compute the IDF on the result set each time, mostly because most of the words in the Twitter are non-vocabulary, non-dictionary words. So a pre-computed IDF might not have all the terms in my result set. But due to this fact, I am not able to actually capture the stop, see that the stop words get higher weightage in the IDF value. This is because most users skip using stop words like the or in the tweet, but some of the users who use it will have higher IDF value, which will make my IDF TF-IDF similarity move towards agreement on the or So in order to prevent that, I actually modify the TF-IDF similarity by adding an additional term called POS weight. And in POS weight, I actually set the weight according to what part of speech it is. I give higher weightages to having the same URL or hashtags, which may mean that they actually are the same, talking about the same thing, and also nouns. But I actually weigh down the verbs and pronouns, which doesn't mean that they actually talk the same thing. So using agreement, I propagate the feature score over the agreement graph. This can be considered to be like we can get a new feature score for all tweets, which has an implicit voting inside the feature score itself. So in order to do the propagation, I use the usual propagation that PageRank or TrustRank does. Basically, I multiply the seed score of the feature score of each tweet over the agreement graph and get the new feature score for the new tweet. I'll show this in an example in the next slide. And finally, after the propagation, the tweets are ranked by the propagated tweet score. So let's look at how actually the agreement propagation works. In this, assume this to be the entire agreement graph, and in this example I'll show that there are two tweets which have very low feature score, but they seem to be saying the same thing as these tweets which have high feature score because they have high agreement with these tweets. And there is one tweet which seem to have higher feature score than these tweets, but it seems to be saying not the same thing as the other tweets because its feature weights is much lower. So how agreement propagation helps in pushing these tweets to the top is by, once we do the agreement propagation, this one gets much higher agreement score than this feature score than this one, because they seem to the scores are high here as well as the agreement is high. Although the scores are high here, because the agreement is much lower, the propagated score will be much lesser. So in this way, when you rank by the feature score, these two tweets will will be ranked higher than the bad tweet. So one of the main questions of propagation is that why don't I propagate it until steady state? Most of the propagation methods like TrustRank or PageRank does propagate until steady state. But I believe that because my agreement graph is actually implicit links between tweets, the trust is not really transitive, which makes me believe that multiple propagation will actually spoil the feature score rather than helping it. So one of the main reason is that a tweet can get an agreement with a very popular tweet by just having some of the part of speech, so some of the terms in the very high popular tweet. Unlike in the web scenario where the good tweet has to link it to the bad tweet, which is less unlikely than having same text than as a good tweet. So I'll show you an example of this. Consider this to be a part of the agreement graph, and we assume that T1 and T2 are good tweets. T3 has part of it that is good and part of it that is bad, and T4 and T4 are spam tweets. So over multiple propagation of agreement, what happens is that the feature scores from T1 and T2, which is expected to be higher, will go through T3 to get T4 and T5 to be almost the same level of feature score as T1 and T2. This seems very unlikely to happen, so I'll show you actually an example of this happening. T1 and T2, let's assume T1 and T2 to be the most famous tweet in Twitter currently, which has the highest retweet and favorites, and T3 to be a tweet like this. We can see that this actually is part of the T1 and T2 tweet, so it actually gets agreement with this, and this is actually a spam tweet because it is just using the terms in this popular tweet to come up top in the results. So any tweet which may be T2 or T4 and T5 can use any part of this text to get a higher weightage if I actually propagate it until steady state. So I started this by saying I should improve from the feature score, which was heavily biased by the reputation of the users. Let's see actually how it works. For the same query that I showed the feature score for, you can see that almost all the queries are actually relevant to the result. This is mostly because the tweets, the results that I have mostly talk about this content, and there are only few outliers which talk about the content that you saw in the feature score. So using the agreement propagation, I'm able to push those tweets down and pull up these tweets to be much higher. And over multiple queries, still Wraprop is able to improve on feature score for all values of K. And finally, I'll actually tell you about the experiment setup and how my data set is, and go into the detailed experiments. So my data set is actually again tracked 2011 microblog tag, and the gold standard is such that there are three, the tweets can be marked as in one of these three, which is -1, 0 and 1. And -1 stands for spam, clearly spam, which was very less in my data set, and 0, which is irrelevant to the query, and 1 is relevant to the query. And this gold standard had 50 queries actually, but one of the queries didn't have any gold standard, so it's only 49 queries is where I ran the experiments over. So in order to run my Wraprop over, I need to first pick a result set. Wraprop works over a set of tweets which actually contain at least the query keyword. So in order to do that, I define result set RQ to be the top n tweets for a query. I define how the top n is later. So in order to get RQ, I actually pick an initial set of tweets for RQ called RQ prime for a query Q prime. This Q prime is actually the query that is there in the gold standard, and I actually expand these the query Q prime to get the query Q. So I do a very minimal query expansion technique, which does actually pick the top 5 nouns in the result set RQ, which have the highest TF-IDF score. So TF-IDF score is slightly different from TF-IDF. TF-IDF score doesn't compute similarity, it just multiplies the TF of the term with the IDF of the term in that RQ. And the 5 nouns are added back to the query Q prime to get Q, which I run, which is the query which I run my wrapper over. And I compare the precision of my method against many baselines over 2 main metrics. One is precision at 5, 10 and 10, 20 and 30. So precision at K is actually defined as number of relevant results in the top K divided by the value K. It's actually, you can think it as the percentage of relevant results in the top K results. And then I compare it with mean average precision, which is actually precision at all values of K in N, and divided by the N to average it over. So mean average precision is different from precision. It's such that mean average precision is able to capture the ordering of the tweets. If I order the first tweet as the relevant tweet top than the irrelevant tweet, precision might not change if it's only 1 or 2. But mean average precision will be able to capture that. And I compare the wrapper with again multiple baselines over 2 basic models. One model is where I actually assume I don't own any of the data and I just use Twitter APIs to get the data and re-rank them and send it to the user, where I act as basically a mediator. This seems to be a more realistic method, but I also compare it with non-mediator method where I assume to host entire data. When I host the entire data, I am able to not depend on just the Twitter rank sorting order, but I can run my own custom algorithm to get the result set. So for that, I actually use a TF-IDF similarity to the query to get the result set RQ. And I compare with 3 internal baselines, which are 3 different variants I proposed, and I compare wrapper with all these different variants. One of it is agreement, which is plain agreement, which just uses the voting or endorsement and find the tweet that has highest endorsement. The feature score is not at all used for AG. And then I compare it with the feature score, which I mentioned initially, just ranking using the feature score. Then there is a third approach which takes an entirely different route of computing 2 different scores, which is the user trustworthiness score and web trustworthiness score. These user trustworthiness score depends only on the user features, and the web trustworthiness score is page rank. These 2 scores are actually propagated over the increment graph to get a propagated user trustworthiness score and propagated web trustworthiness score. Then the propagated user trustworthiness score and web trustworthiness score are combined with the tweet features, which is the retweets and query similarity, to get finally a set of features which I rank using a learning to rank method. So going to the mediator model, I pick the top 2000 tweets given by Twitter, and these tweets are the input for all the different baselines I compare, and we can see that I get better precision scores than all of the other baselines I compare, and I get 25% improvement over the next best at precision at 30. In the non-mediator model, I again use the TF-IDF similarity to select the top n results, and those are actually used to those are used again similar to, this is plugged by a top TF-IDF similarity query, top TF-IDF results. And here as well, we can see that wrapper gets better precision value for all value of k, and it gets 16% improvement over the next best at precision at 30. So earlier I mentioned that I believe that multiple propagations actually might reduce the precision scores, because tweets can good tweets can send the feature score to bad tweet. So this is the experiment to show that this is actually what happens in Twitter. You can see that at one propagation, which is what RapRop does, I get very high precision scores, and when the propagation goes higher, the precision score also drops. Since RapRop is the best in my internal evaluation, I compare it with a couple of external baselines. One of them is Twitter. I actually simulate Twitter because my data set is 1 year old data set, so I cannot get the current Twitter ranking. So I assume the Twitter to be sorting the queries that contain the query keywords in the reverse chronological order. Also, I compare it with USC ISI method, which is the current state of the art for ranking in microblogs. This was the state of the art because it came first in the Trek microblog results. So what USC ISI does is it uses a system called INDRI, which actually is a LDA model, which not only captures the terms but also phrases, and it actually predicts the probability of given the query. It predicts the probability that these tweets might be relevant than the other tweets, and that is the relevance model for INDRI for USASI. And then they actually use some of the tweet features, like if it has a URL, if it has a hashtag, and if it's a reply, to use a coordinate assign learning to rank algorithm to rank finally the tweets. In mediator model, you can see that I can still do better than the current state of the art and much better than the Twitter search. And I get more than 37% improvement at precision at 30. In the non-mediator model, I get better precision for k greater than 10 and much higher precision when k is at 30. So finally, to conclude, I introduce a ranking method that is sensitive to relevance and trust. I use the user tweet and web layers to compute a feature score. Then I propose using agreement to compute to find the endorsement structure in Twitter, and then propagate the feature score over the agreement graph to get a better improved results. The tweets are then ranked by the propagated feature score. The experiments show that I actually can improve over both my internal baselines as well as the current state of the art and Twitter search. I then show that the experiments also show that the trust is not transitive in over agreement graph by showing that I get better precision score at one ply rather than multiple plies. And I am able to do this, do the ranking in less than a second. Thank you.
Some questions?
So, what are the most significant for your method to be better than others? Like you use ensemble, right? You use your agreement. But when you compare with the USC ISI, they use LDA. And also for the internal one, do you use all ensembles for the internal, your internal
For
methods?
internal, I actually...
Only the rap you use ensemble?
No, so this feature score is again ensemble.
Okay.
It's just ranking using an ensemble. I get this improvement from feature score to RapRop using agreement. So this is just ranking using the ensemble values,
Okay.
and
How about the green one, red?
green one is my method.
Yeah. Does that use ensemble?
Yes, it uses ensemble.
How about this purple and the blue?
The purple again uses ensemble.
Agreement?
Agreement doesn't use it. Ensemble. It's just voting.
But purple is agreement.
So the agreement.
He has jet lag.
He, what?
He has jet lag.
No, he has color blindness, you have jet lag.
Blue and purple are similar.
The UPP actually uses ensemble methods. It's same. It uses the same random forest to compute this one, and agreement is just voting. I just find tweets that agree with each other and just count the degree of each tweet.
So if I want to use yours to improve my work, which one should I use? Which component will be most used, like for the tweet ranking? Use ensemble and use.
It should be Raptor because that gets higher precision than others. Which uses ensemble and agreement both.
But also you look at the external one.
Mm-hmm.
The improvement is not significant. So are you submitting this to some place?
CAKM, yeah. This one or this one? This one. This is the external.
Oh, when it's small. Then it's
Yeah, but when it's small, actually, it's very tough to get a better precision score because the denominator is too small. So, but when it improves, actually, I can get a better precision score.
So why do you call them one ply? Because you multiply the matrix just once?
It is only it's multiply the matrix only once.
So if you just do once, then you're basically summing all the neighbors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're assuming equal weight for neighbors.
No, so
Agreement
I agree. If you assume the feature score to be all one, then I am actually summing over it. If I assume the feature score to be different,
Yeah, I mean based on you take that weight, you just sum it, right? A weighted sum.
yes, wait,
Right.
yes.
So I'm assuming. So I would say this is more like a relational learning than PageRank, because you're not actually propagating
It's not
anything
perfect. Yes,
beyond.
yeah.
So how would did you compare this with any other relational learning algorithm to see if it actually works better?
Such as
You know, like the WVRN and any kind of combination of that. No.
Okay.
And you talked about learning to rank
Yes.
methods. So what learning to rank method did you use?
So learning to rank method is again a machine learning process. The output is a rank list. That's the only difference. You don't care about the individual scores. You just care about the rank list.
No,
So
I mean,
that
did you use learning to rank, or did someone else use learning to rank? I didn't get that
they
part.
will use it. They also use it,
Uh-huh.
and this method uses learning to rank.
Okay, what algorithm? What learning to rank algorithm?
It's again a random forest, but it's a library called Ranglin, which gives you a random forest, learning to rank.
So I don't remember the actual paper title, but there's a paper. They actually ranked Twitter using something called the gradient boosted decision trees, GBDT. And I would just suggest that if you're publishing it, you can compare it with some of these learning to rank methods, and in particular GBDT.
Okay.
So can you go back to your question? Okay. So your improvement is very impressive. Okay. What I'm curious is, so this precision is getting stuck at 50%.
Yes. Yes.
So what do you think is going on here?
It's
How can
mostly
we push this forward?
because it's a condensed gold standard. some of the queries have almost no results. They are put in such that users don't cheat. So maximum achievable on this is 60.65. Maximum achievable precision on this data set.
60.65.
0.65.
So this is the precision,
Yes.
right? What about the recall?
Recall, I think you should get. I think you can get 100% recall with at 30. You should get 100. I didn't do the comparison because precision at K almost equals to recall because I have to push top results. I have to have the results in the top 5 to get a high precision score. But if I am able to fill the top 10 or 20 with good results, then recall doesn't matter because if there are enough relevant results in the top 10 or 20, then no one cares about if I give all the relevant results. So I didn't actually compare it.
I see. Okay.
Other questions from the audience?
So you used different categories of features, right? Like user, web, and so which one actually like best helped in your process? Like so which category of features?
It's not category. It's combination of all three. But in user, actually the follower by followee helped me the most rather than the other ones.
So yeah, did you like do a comparison with respect to if you assume all the features related to the user as one system and then related to web as one and like that?
That is what actually I compare in the blue.
Okay.
I separate out user separately, web separately, and then Twitter separately.
Okay.
And then I compare it.
Okay, put it this way.
Any other questions? Then I guess the audience get to leave, and then we'll have the closed session.